This is Justin AMZN on April 6th, 2018, a Friday. Looking at the pre-market today, actually, the end of yesterday, I don't remember if we covered this, that there was somewhat of a sell-off. I think we did, yeah. So there's a bit of a sell-off late in the market, or after market on Thursday. And I think I was saying if it were to open down here, it's a bearish retest, opening below the lows here. We ended up, so this is the last 5-minute candle right before the open. And it looked like we were going to open right here, just within the wicks of yesterday. But what that meant is that anybody here bullish was trapped, and it could easily just sell off and trap all these buyers on this candle. And what happened was we actually opened up kind of bullish, which is still okay. You can still have a bullish candle like this and then break down and have more people trapped. And I was kind of looking at this, trying to see, are we consolidating? Seeing some higher lows here, seeing some lower highs here, thinking, okay, if this just kind of consolidates in here, which way is it going to go? We're kind of in the middle of this range, 1455 down to 1404, somewhat in the middle here, not exactly the middle, but in the middle of it. So the next 5-minute candle just totally shoots higher. It's like, okay, we're definitely going up into 1455. That's what this looks like. I wasn't even watching. I wasn't able to trade this morning during this opening. But this is just phenomenal move. Within these two candles, having 20-something point move, and there's some money to be made here. If you just even looked at this as an opportunity to put in a new low and then rally. Didn't quite get down to the 1404. We were talking yesterday that there's a possibility that it's going to come back up into this triangle shape, retesting the level here, maybe push straight on through it. It just depends on what the market actually does. And then the next candle kind of paused, consolidate a little bit in here, and then we push higher into a high of 1451.24. And looking at this, okay, this is a nice buying candle. We can continue, but now we're right at the top of this range. This isn't really the place to buy. This is the place to look for some consolidation up in here and maybe a rollover, because that's, hitting this triangle now. So this could have been the sell-off from the triangle. It looks like we're getting a rally right back into the same level. We'll see what happens. Next candle after that, we throw an upper wick. It's a bearish candle, or selling, some selling comes in, or at least profit takers. But what we also did, the high here is 1452.50, and the closing price yesterday was 1451.75. We filled the gap. I think I have the right candle highlighted. Yeah, we filled the gap. That's all we did. Did it really quickly, filled the gap, and then we could still move up into 1455. If we don't get there, it's actually a little more bearish that this totally retested that close. Even though it was a bearish gap on the hourly, trapping so many bulls, anybody down in here was looking to just buy and get in, anywhere down in here, making a profit just like they did yesterday down at the same level. And that's really what happened. The low here is 1430.70. The low here was 1427.01. So, only a couple dollars difference, a little bit lower today's low than yesterday. Actually, no, did I have the wrong candle? Oh, wow, I had the wrong candle. Okay, yesterday's low was, I was reading the close, 1427.07. Today's low, 1427.01. 6 cents difference. Anybody buying this wick bought yesterday on this wick. It's got to be what happened. And maybe there's some new people, maybe some people didn't. Like, I wasn't buying there, but it would have been a phenomenal place to buy and rally up into the closing price of yesterday a lot faster than this move did, or from here all the way up into the close. This took like an hour and a half to do that, and we just did it in a half an hour up to here. And so You could look for it to continue up a little bit more. This looks like another buying candle, just like this one. It could continue up, and the very next candle actually closes below and throws a little bit of a lower wick, but not much. Almost a shaved top. The high and the open were 2 cents apart. So there's a lot of selling in this candle. It's like, okay, we had some selling up here at the closing price from yesterday. We have a selling candle here taking out the low of this buying candle. This could be reversing. A little bit lower wick here, kind of retesting. It'd be nice if it could retest into this bearish candle. The low here is 1447.11, and we'll see if maybe that happens. This one, the high on this, not quite up to 1447. Did we get there? Maybe this one, 1447. Got there, didn't quite get the 11 cents, but really close. But anyway, this is a great consolidation. We got this rollover location, not quite at 1455 that I was looking for. A bearish candle taking out this low, a consolidation. This could easily break below 1440 with a stop above 1447. Maybe an $8 risk on this, and let it roll over down into our next price down here, 1404. I mean, it's a long way to go, but you got all day on a Friday, and if you're in the shares, it could take another day or something to do it. But that would have been a great trade. Many R's on that, even to the low of the day, would have been pretty close to a 2R trade. And so the next candle here actually triggers that trade in. Now, I didn't take this either. I was watching things on and off during the day, but just replaying this is exactly what we talked about, the possibility of this rolling over at this price, coming up into this triangle, retesting that. And this would have been a great place to get in bearish. And we'll look at some of the options on what you could have done to play this move. But what happened here was actually a pretty quick move down, contending with the open price here. That would have been a great place to take some profits. I'm sure people did. Retested into these buying candles here. So some folks who had bought here, they got trapped on this candle, or got stopped out on this candle. This was the last ditch effort that any of them would have had to have a little bit of a profit. Didn't even come up to give them any profit. Maybe they got out break even if they had held through this, and then through another little bit of a wick up, and then I think it consolidated some more. So another smaller triangle here. This candle starts to be the breakdown. You have these two candles here, which we threw the wick here, but it's a bearish candle. This high wave candle with a wick below that one, this you could say is maybe an evening star reversal, and then it gets triggered bearish here with a break below the low of these two bullish candles. We're still right above the open price, so if you wanted to wait for it to get below the open price or below the low, you're waiting a little bit longer. But this candle had a nice, what was that, $5-ish, around $5 range that you could have traded just that candle bearish with that setup. Maybe a little more since we're throwing so many wicks in here. This was the only place I was looking, okay, if this thing is actually going to rally, this would be a nice S curve and just continue up bullish. And didn't get into anything bullish, but it actually started to trigger that way, trapping more people as it put in a nice spinning candle here. It's like, okay, that's a good one with a stop up above here, probably around 1440, similar to how we had could have had a trigger here bearish with a stop up here. Be nice to see a nice bearish candle coming after this. See if that happens. We get it. This is definitely an evening star reversal here. After we had a consolidation, this would be a false break bullish, and this thing could just go roll over. Or this could be the retest of this bullish breakout, and then it's going to just go. So playing that as a evening star reversal, you get a spinning candle here that doesn't close below this price, but now you can just go bearish below here. a stop up here. That would be probably $8-9 range on your risk, and it just consolidates a little bit more in this. There's times when it consolidates and then it's like, wait a little bit more for it to actually do something. And I've seen that happen a lot on Amazon. Put in a lot of wicks up in this level, stayed below 1440 at this price, and then threw in some lower wicks. And again, this is the only place, okay, you got this low, a little bit of a higher low. If you see this as a trend line, you're kind of tagging it. Now this is actually breaking through that. But now this is starting to move bearish. We got bearish momentum now on a squeeze, and it just starts to go down. This was a little bit of buying off of the low of the day, the last ditch effort for anybody else saying, hey, here we're going to buy here again at this same level, just like people bought yesterday. But we've got the bearish momentum building, some bearish movement going, and it just, I forgot it did that. It did end up bouncing there a little bit more, kind of retesting almost into this candle, which is something I love to see, that it a nice small candle that you then break down from, come back up to it. This would have been a great candle to short or to get into puts. The squeeze fired, but it lost momentum on this quick bear bullish move. Step another couple candles. Yeah, actually threw another wick higher, a double top in here. So I'm obviously looking at it from the bearish perspective, seeing that, okay, everything we've done is bearish, consolidate, bearish, retest, roll over. Now we've got some more upper wicks, another consolidation here, and we start to break down bearish. Right now we're sitting at the 1425 price, below the lows from earlier in the day, and this would be a good place to say, okay, from here, let's let it retest. We got a couple bearish candles, let it retest back up into 1426, 27, something like that, and then go. And it ended up not really doing that except for this candle, spinning candle, and then it drops even further. A little bit of buying here, similar to the pre-market level. I think there was something from previous days that was, actually would have been a few more days back. I had some buying in this level, but in the teens here. Came back up in the 1420s, and this squeeze formed again and then fired bearish, and then continued moving down. We ended up just rolling down all the way down into our next level, 1404. So that's why I had this range set up in the chart today, just to show that, what we talked about this coming up, rolling over, and retesting this level happened. Now I was looking for a trade bullish at this point after this move. It was just too quick. Looked like we may come back up into an exponential moving average or something in here. I didn't just jump right in, although that would have been a great move to just grab an R or something here, depending on your which option it was that you used on which call option on a Friday. I actually got in bullish right as I think this low was forming, or the very next low here was forming, something like that. So I wanted it to tag this candle and then get moving again. This was a nice quick move. I didn't get out of my target on this, but I left the trade on bullish. This came down, almost got stopped out. I had a stop down below this level on the option. And then it bounced the next candle, and I got filled on my target. Just grabbed an R from getting in here, almost getting stopped out, and then getting out for an R right here. This is counter trend on the day, so I just wanted a quick move, playing right off of the support here. And I could have actually gotten a better entry had I waited for a full retest into this candle, right back into the price, and flipped it out for a little bit more of a gain. But I was happy with 1 R on that one. And then we just kind of rolled back down into the close. Came up, rolled back down almost to the 1404 price. Jumped around a little bit. I probably could have done the similar trade again. I actually got into the 1415 call, and I wanted it to get into the money, but it didn't quite get there. but I had my target set below, so I would get out right around here when the price was coming down through this spot. This was the last consolidation, came down, kind of double bottomed, came right back into that, and didn't expect it to bounce with this little bit of time left in the day. Didn't expect a huge rally back up the last 30 minutes of the day, but I was watching it to see, okay, got my stop set, got my target set, we're good to go, and it worked out in this case. So it was exciting to step back and look at the trade today, look at how Amazon moved, because it retested, even though it was a bearish gap and go on like an hourly, trapping all kinds of people. It still rallied right back up, rolled over, consolidated, roll over, or breakdown, retest, roll over, consolidated, breakdown, consolidated, breakdown, consolidated, breakdown into our target. And there was plenty of places I could have gotten in bearish through any of this, especially had this tagged the 14.55 price like it did yesterday, and I had the trade set up after these two candles. I would have been doing that same thing again up here today. It didn't quite get there, and it was kind of disappointing it didn't, but it also kind of points to the fact that it's a little more bearish of a day because it doesn't get up to a resistance. It doesn't even have the bullish momentum to get there. So bulls would be trapped on some of these moves, and they were. These large moves in the day, we retraced them pretty quickly and took them out. So we take a look over at the options, and sorry, I usually have this zoomed in. This is the 1450 call that you could have gotten into at the open or low price here, $3, $4, $5, anywhere here on this first 5-minute candle, would have moved very quickly, giving you a couple of R, depending on what your risk was here. Retested, lost a lot of premium, and actually rallied up a little bit higher. Any of these, this being the opposite direction of the gap, would have been a fade sort of move. Would have been a great place to just take your profit as you have it, and then as it rolled over, it just continued to lose premium all day. This was a little bit of the move that was retesting. Let's zoom back in on the day here. So these candles here were actually this move, this bounce off of kind of the low price. It actually took out the low, retested this kind of neckline, or retested this level. All day we were putting in a high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and just continued on down with lower highs all day. We didn't really make a higher high at all. We didn't really make a higher low. I guess but this was more of just a consolidation, still throwing a wick down there. This would be maybe a relative low, slightly higher low, but then this was a lower low. This was a consolidation, and then made a new low here, new low here. So, the whole thing was trending lower all day. So let's switch over and look at the puts. This is the 1425 put that you could have spent $200 and gotten into. Just had a trade open anywhere up here. Not quite $1 or $100. I think you'd have to go out another. No, not quite there. I'm looking for like an absolute zero kind of setup. That's $110. Okay, maybe the 1410. Yeah, so the 1410 spent a lot of its time today out of the money, but earlier in the morning it actually had a low in here as the premium was just getting sucked out on a Friday of 73 cents or $73, and then put another relative low, let's see, $77 on this rally here that didn't end up going anywhere. Anyway, the point is you could have spent $100, absolute zero, and gotten in at any point in the morning when it pulled back to that price. I mean, even in here, could have bought for $1, $100, rallied up to grab a quick R here, grab a quick couple R, 3R here, then this consolidated, or you could have held on and just trailed up your stop to, $1, $2, as it's just going sideways through all of this. It's got the bearish move going on. There's nothing for it to really bounce off of in the last day or anything. In this level, we're below all these levels, so you could retest a little bit, and that's what it did here on this candle. Retest a little bit and then just continue to roll over, consolidate and roll over, and the option actually just consolidated and then moved higher. And this would have been a great place to say, okay, I'm going to put my stop right above this candle at 135, a stop right under this candle here around maybe 3. So you're turning your stop to 2 to 3. Once this breaks bearish, you're almost to your target. You're going to be taking profit probably either on this candle or this candle, which would have been around $8, $9, $10 on that move. So that would have been a 7, 8, or 9 R trade with absolute zero. You risked your full R and it did nothing for half the day, or you just waited for the premium to leave it, left the trade open, and just set your target somewhere if it's going to move. Even just letting it ride for risking the full R, getting out at 2R, 3R, 4R, any of those would have worked today and not moving your stop. That's the power of the absolute zero on a Friday, where you've got that direction in your favor and the possibility of getting to that level. Even if you looked at the 1400 put, you could have bought a few of these. So ignore that low. That's the closing low. Could have spent $35, $40, $50, something like that. Maybe gotten 2 of them, and it moved, from 40, 50 up to 2 pretty quick here, maybe 150, and then up to 450, as it broke down here. So this was the last place to really get in for 40-50 cents in here, and then it just slowly grinded higher. The first one I think I had up was the 1450 put, and this one could have been bought I think down in here 850, something like that. That would have been the opening, or this price up here. This would have just been too much of a risk for me to have an order kind of sitting with whatever the price was. Even this was a nice retest, and it put in a new low on this candle with that wick, the low there being 1025. So that would have been something similar to I think a couple days ago, where if it had given me something a little tighter, even with a stop below that, would have worked. Bought at 1050 with a stop at 950 on this candle here. You could have gotten in on this going bearish and just held on. You probably would have wanted to raise your stop, maybe lock in something up here, but already you're going from like 1050 up to 20 relatively quickly. Then it just sits and consolidates all day, and you can get in again when it pulls back on any of these, and that rode up all the way into the 40s. So that kind of a trade, had you bought at 1050 with a stop at 950, could have just held on all day till it got into this target, flipped it out at, let's say 40. It got up to 47. No, it got up to 48. That's crazy. So that would have been like a 30, 40 something, 30, 38, 39, something like that, R trade. Just sitting on this on a day, letting it move like we talked about yesterday. So that's the kind of trades I'm looking for, the trades that I want to get into. The trade I actually took was at the very end of the day. I'm looking at this, it's like, okay, it's got to bounce here. And I think I bought, which candle was it? It was it this one? This one? let's see, that's too high. I bought for 125 here. I had to stop at 50 just because I didn't like the slippage, and I didn't get it close enough to my 100. If I had just bought for 100, which I should have just waited and tried to get filled on, that would have worked here. And then it ran up to, my target was 225. So from 125 to 225, just made a quick R from this candle to this candle. It did it in like 13 minutes, which is great. Makes it seem really simple sometimes when that happens. But had I bought on this candle, even for $75 or $100 and flipped it out at 225, it would have been a little bit more of a gain. It would have been nicer to have that, but it still worked. Got my R for today, and at the level I wanted it. So I could have been a little bit impatient getting in here, thinking it was going to actually just run quicker into the exponential moving average. It didn't. It retested again. Almost got stepped out. I'm looking at this one. I'm like, it shouldn't have come down that quick. No, it's got to go up. Ended up doing it. But that's some of the emotion when there's things going on, and you got to set that aside and recognize, hey, we talked about this yesterday. Talked about the range that you would have, the possibility to have during the day coming all the way down to this level. And when I saw it coming to this level, it's like, oh, let's look for it to bounce. If it doesn't, it could just continue down and drop a little bit further. And it didn't. It held that. So when we switch over to the daily and take a look at what could happen next, it really looks like we're still playing out the bigger triangle we had over here with a gap, bearish gap that retested. Bearish retest gap that retested, bearish retest gap that retested, bearish engulfing, bearish gap that retested. This is a little bit of a longer term retest. Even though this was a bullish retest gap, this could be the retest. To me, this looks like we've got a little more momentum going bearish, coming down into the 100, possibly even the 200. I'm not sure where that price is. That would be a phenomenal move down, bounce around in between the exponentials, or between the simple moving averages a little bit, or at least tag the 200 and bounce, run up into the 100, consolidate and go higher. Anything's possible in these markets. If we take a look back at hourly, let's see how this loads up. With these lines that we had from these days, this was it last week on Wednesday and Thursday, set us up for the trade we saw yesterday, the trades we saw yesterday and today, back up into the 1455 price, back down into the 1404 from breaking out of this. So I think this is the chart I had up the other day. This could look like a messy inverted head and shoulders with like a double bottom or some sort of a distribution here, or accumulation in here, and then a breakout, retesting that level. And I want to see this hold if we're going to go bullish anymore. If we're going to continue back up, I want to see us rally off of this price and hold this as a low. I'd rather not see this wick down here, or even wick down into the 1388 price down in here. It could, but that would kind of open the door a little bit to repeat some of this. The price we had here, let's see, it's, I guess, between the pre-market here and during the market here, look really similar to during the market here and right at the open, or early in the day here, that we're holding these levels. In this case, we rolled over quickly and recovered. We didn't roll over as quickly, recovered, then we rolled over, came down into this low. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it well enough, but what happened here to say that to see that we dropped further below could be similar to this setup here, and this could just be a consolidation, aftermarket, and then we'll just continue down. This could be a double top here with a neckline in this area. It could retest a little bit into the 14 teens and then roll over. But that's what I'm saying. I want to see this hold in this level before we before we actually get in, more heavily bullish. But we could easily see another bounce back up into the 1455 and then, ping around a little bit and see if it can continue. It looks like, we've reversed, like this is downward here, consolidate with accumulation. Now we're going back up. It looks like it could, but we don't know. We don't know how it's going to open. We've got some bearish momentum. We have the bearish squeeze that fired. It could continue. And if I turn off the extended hours and just look at this, I cleaned some of this up a little bit. Let's see, can I get a little bit more? I just zoomed in, but so this was that triangle, broke down, retested, broke down, retested, quick breakdown with the gap. This looks like, okay, we've got this area as a gap that's holding. Now we just rolled over again. We've got a series of lower highs, relative highs, and a good amount of buying through here. So I don't think we'll just sail right through that. It's possible we'll come down and do this kind of thing again until the 100 exponential, the 100 simple moves up a little bit more. It could take another week for this exponential to come into these lows in the 1350s area here, 1355 price, right? Right now this is at 1337, so it's moving up pretty quick. It was 1330 just a few days ago, 20. So if it's doing a couple dollars each day, it could be by the end of the week it's up around 1355. And I guess maybe with some of these moves come back down, maybe it'll slow down a little bit. But you also don't know which closes 100 days back are getting dropped off. Lower ones that should go up. That's the average, moving average, obviously. So anyway, it's late. I'm just mumbling. Anyway, later in the next week, hopefully we'll see this exponential, simple moving average catch up. If Amazon wants to move down into it sooner, then look to buy, look for a bouncing off of the simple quickly, because you're going counter trend, and then even another rollover through it. We've been on such a tear on Amazon to get this close here to the simple moving average and not touch it. It'd be great if that holds. It'd be great if the 1404 price holds here. That'll be some good support that we'll look to continue into the future. But you just got to set up your trigger and your stop and your target, and just let the trade go on its own. Sometimes this is looking still more bearish to me than bullish, with this retest gap up and then a bearish gap and go below. And I wanted to look at, did I turn here? We got the hourly here. So we were actually not trapping the last hour. This was a retest on the hourly, and that's what we did. So I was calling it a bearish gap and go on the hourly, but it wasn't, because of how the last hour of the day closed. So the previous candle here was bearish, so we gapped down. That's a retest and then a rollover. And had I been looking at the hourly, that would have been a great place to just get in bearish once it got into this smaller candle here. It doesn't quite look that way with the extended hours turned on. It just gets a little harder to see these. But you would have had still a spinning candle here, indecision candle here, and with the open being below, it kind of chose its direction, retested into that spinning candle. A much nicer candle here, looking like indecision than when the extended hours were turned off. So anyway, saw some good moves today to the bearish side. Wish I had things set up a little bit better to get in, and with a conservative stop or the absolute zero price, so I could or absolute zero trade, so I can make a little more. But got my R on this. Hopefully someone else did too. And let me know if you do. That'd be great if you're making money on this analysis, because this is just an Amazon.